Welcome to the Tearing It Up podcast. I'm your host, Taryn. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow. Hello, everybody. It is another beautiful day here, hopefully, for everyone out there. Actually, times are pretty rough, so it might not be a beautiful day for you still. Hopefully, you can find some beauty in it. How about that? But so today's guest, I'm excited to have on because we've gone back and forth for a little bit about getting her on. Just schedules have been crazy. Honestly, too, I thought that right now we'd be transitioning into more winter-focused content. But then I was like, well, it's only November. People are still biking here in Tahoe and around the rest of the country and world. You know, people will be biking year-round. So, like, why would I need to, like, be quote-unquote seasonally relevant when, like I said, so much of our listeners can be biking throughout the year? Plus, with recent events, I've realized, you know, like, what the fuck am I doing? This is my podcast. I can do whatever I want, when I want, talk to who I want, when I want. And this woman needs to be heard and needs to be heard right now, I feel. So I got back to Gabriela. I was like, you know what? Let's try to get something on the books. And I'm so happy we were able to. We had a little chat last week. Now here we are for a full recording where she can share her full story. So with all that being said, I'm going to introduce you guys to Gabriela and let her kind of take the reins and tell us about herself. I'm just going to start off with one question for you, Gabriela, that we ask everybody, and that is, where are you physically in the world right now as we record?
Hello, everyone. I am in Denver, Colorado. This is me. I am an Indigenous Mayan Guatemalan woman who has been living in this country for 18 years. I am an immigrant. And I am a mom of two beautiful children who have taught me in one way or another who am I now. Knowing that I need to be stronger for them. Like Taryn was saying, regardless of the circumstances, I know I have to stand up every day and fight for them. And to be able to use my voice and how far I have come to use my voice to bring this awareness of that, yes, we are here, and yes, we are going through struggles, and yes, it will be tricky these for next years that are coming. But like people like you, that inspire us, you too, that inspire us to keep going and knowing that there is always someone that we can rely. I think it's important for everyone to know.
100%. Community always.
Absolutely. And it can be really hard to find. You know, a lot of people don't have community, and that's something I'm sure we'll get into, Gabriela, as we talked a bit on our intro call about that, and like being able to find community and how hard it can be, and finding women who are at a older age, and I don't even mean to say older, but, you know, not in like their teens or 20s, and maybe their 30s or 40s or 50s, and still haven't experienced really like the outdoors because they didn't have a community where that was safe to go out in and experience. And that's part of your own experience too, that I know we'll get into. That community, there's so much to it, where having your community of people, which can be like really small, your tight-knit group of friends and family that you can rely on, talk to, get outside in the world with, but also just the bigger word of community that we think about, like the community you live in. So many communities right now, and still, and probably forever, don't have the accessibility that a lot of other communities do. So how can we help those communities? And I think that's something really important that you are doing, and you're reaching these people in these communities that can find a way outside of where they are to feel safer. And yeah, there's just so much to talk about here with you. And I do want to start out with just your background with the outdoors, because it's amazing to me, considering where Amber and we've experienced the outdoors and from a younger age and lived in places where we could really access it a lot easier. And a lot of our listeners are the same. They've been in the outdoors for a long time, but we also have some listeners who didn't get into certain sports until later in life. So I think you can resonate really well with those folks, and just remind the people who, even if you have done something, been outside and been active for a long time in your life, there's still new things that we can experience in our life at any age. And that's always important for us to remember too, because you just don't have to be set in your ways at any age. I don't care if I've been biking for, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. There's still something else I can try. I don't have to oh, well, I can only mountain bike now. I can't try something new. So tell us a little bit about your experience kind of growing up and what kind of relationship you did have with the outdoors or being active.
It was very tricky, and I will bring something. This book is an amazing book to give you a sense of how I grew up. We were in an internal war for 34 years in Guatemala. And so it was the guerrillas and the army. And you as a woman didn't want it to be outdoors. It was very dangerous. They could have stopped you anywhere in the country and search you. And, I think we all know. So as a woman, I was school to home, home to school, very, very focus oriented. I grew up in a Catholic family, and it was a very strong thing to do. That's what you do, and that's how you behave, and that's how girls should stand, sit, put their skirt down, and men don't do anything. When I married my husband and we went to Guatemala, he was washing dishes, and it was like if he was conquering whatever, the Everest. It's like, he shouldn't be washing dishes. I'm like, guys, calm down.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's going to have hands at the end of this, I promise you. It was, of course, he makes fun. He's like, I like to go to your house, and I'm like, whatever. But it is hard for my family to understand why a man will do all these things that he does. But it was a learning experience. Of course, I married him. I am traveling. We met. Long story short, we marry. I come, and I'm trying to be that woman that I grew up seeing in the archetypes I have in my house. And as a matter of fact, yesterday I was in a book club, and we were 35, 40 Latinx women, first generation or second generation, and everyone identified it with this other book, Tías and Primas, because these are all those archetypes. You have to do this, and if you don't do that, all your family is going to judge you. Anyways, I come here, I do the same thing. I kind of blend in the country. I actually truly didn't want it to be here. It took me 8 years to accept that this was my new country. Then I become a mom, and that opened a completely different kind of worms, different learning experiences. And then of a boy, I become a mom of a boy, and then I become a mom of a girl. And that was a completely different, because all the things that you have inside you that you haven't healed, it has to be healed, and it's a process. It's not overnight. And to teach both of my kids that moms don't just stay home and cook and clean the house and fold the clothes. My daughter was born 3 days before lockdown in 2020. I think I mentioned, Taryn, my half brother died of COVID in Guatemala in 2021. And I think that was the hitting the wall kind of situation. Hey, you can be healthy, you can be young. Don't take your life for granted. Start doing things out of your comfort zone. We became hermits when my baby was born because we don't have family. And like you were saying, Taryn, unfortunately, all my family is in Guatemala. And my husband is the only child. And so it went from being, I have a medium-sized family to being like the four of us, and that's it. So in 2022, I found a class for Latinas for mountain biking, and I haven't biked. I had a BMX when I was like 8 years old, and that was the end of it. My husband tried many times, and I was like, as much as men want to be supportive, there is a way that woman approach or femme approach things differently. Totally. So when I encountered this group, they really empower me, and they really finally click that it doesn't matter if I fall. Will always be someone there to pick me up, regardless of the situation. Of course, you have to find that community, and that's where the tricky thing comes, because you have to find that community before you can do something, or are you willing to do something and found that community? That depends on you. But yes, I start biking at 41. I am 44. I am proud of. I come back of every ride, and I tell everyone this because it's something that really makes me proud. I come back from every ride, and I show my kids how many bruises or scratches I have. I'm like, check this out. Because when they fall, I can use that as an analogy. I'm like, guys, we all fall, and we all will stand up, and we'll always, well, you always will look around, and there will always be someone there to help you out. Just be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think, Taryn, I start mountain biking. Paddleboard is not a sport, but for me, overcoming the fear of being in a lake, it was a big thing. I'm going to learn how to ski this year, even if it's by myself in the mountain.
Yes, queen.
I am learning archery, so yes.
Cool.
That's awesome and amazing. I mean, to come from a place where you literally didn't feel safe just going outside, like it was regimented from school to home, back to school, not even really having the opportunity to explore anything outside, on top of being in this family or in this society where women are to be at home. Like, you had all these things against you to where it would have been very, very, very easy to stay in that same lane, like what you know, like you could still be 44 today, raising your kids, doing just the traditional domestic like wife thing and not doing anything for yourself, dropping them off at school, going home, doing housework, picking them up. And you didn't let that happen. I know that tragically that it was your brother's death that kind of gave you this different vision of there's so much more to life kind of thing, is how it sounds, that I'm not in this situation anymore. I can go out and do things and explore and try new things. You also, when you mentioned, your husband trying to get you to bike and how it's just different when it's with other women. And I love that because in this podcast, we talk to women only. There's plenty of men out there that I do want to talk to. And I've thought about like, well, they have a great view on this or that. But I think this platform was built to share women's voices specifically because there's all these women's groups now and things, right? And in mountain biking, skiing, at least in more like mountainous towns, here in Truckee and Tahoe, in the summer, almost every day of the week, you can find like a group mountain bike ride with a women's group, like a different group. And as these got more popular and came around, if like men are wondering like, well, why do you need a women's group? Like there's not a men's group and there's not a men's course for this. Why do you need a women's only course? And they just don't get it, that we can still like men, love men, be around men, recreate with men, but we cannot explain to them the difference of the energy when you're just with all women. I think there is a true, deep energy and connection that women have with each other. And if men have it with each other, great. They just don't talk about it. And like women, we talk about the energy we have and the connection we have. Generally, I feel like we're more empathetic and can just connect and read people better, and it's just a different fucking vibe. I can't
It's
even
like
put it into words.
uncommunicated. There's
Yeah.
like an understanding that's just uncommunicated, and we just feel each other, and
Yes.
it's magic. It's actual magic.
It is. It really is. And I say that, and I feel like it's an overused term or something. But then again, I know that the women who have experienced it know what I mean, and they know it's not overused. So that's all that matters. So I just love hearing it from other women that, yes, okay, because, sometimes I feel like I can doubt that or doubt myself and things. And so when someone else who like unprompted says it, I'm like, okay, yes, no, it does exist. It does exist.
Yeah,
It really
validation.
is there. Yeah, totally. And especially, when it's someone like your husband or your partner that you're really close with, and you're like still saying, no, like even you, maybe one of the closest men in your lives, like you don't feel comfortable with, but you can go meet a group of stranger women and you're like, yeah, let's do this. It's just happens. But I was curious as well, where did you meet your husband in Guatemala, or did you meet him when you came to the US?
When I came to the US, I graduated from college, and I said I am taking a sabbatical year with my savings year. No, I met him here, and we married in Guatemala. But like you were saying, Trine and Amber, he's an amazing husband, and he has supported me in every single way I could never imagine. And clearly, in a way, I'm here because of him. Like, I have come all this way because he's the one. Like, sometimes I'm like, and he's like, you should go and write them.
Yep. That's a good husband.
Yeah. But like you said, Taryn, I feel like also we cheer more. Like, you will never see a group of men cheering each other. Like, you will never say, yeah, buddy, we are like, woohoo. So I feel like that's something to do with, I don't know what is it. And learning with age, to be to have looking for the word, like humility.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know everything, because I remember there was one person, and she will, one of these days I'm going to go and give her a hug. She was behind me on the right, and she was like, switch gear, down, up. I'm like,
Yep.
anyone else could have turned and be like, you know what, let me do this by myself. I got it. And I was like, keep going.
Yes.
I keep doing it. And so being open to it. But I think the important thing, Taryn and Amber, what we really need to focus with all of this is bringing this to teenagers, females, because I feel like there is an age that we really argue with each other, and we want to be better at the other one. And like I said, with, I don't know, experiences, years, name it, we realize that no, we are stronger together. And how can we bring this to this group so they start being stronger, younger?
Yeah,
well put.
absolutely. I agree. And it's something where I wonder, I'm like, is this message being spread wider, or am I just older and around the people who recognize that we are not all direct competition? Because it is still very much in the young person's. I do think that that message is getting bigger and wider spread because of things like the internet and social media, and just the messaging generationally is changing a bit. I think like the millennial generation is kind of like spreading that down, but no matter what, it's still going to be something that I think we have to fight, and it's going to be a long fight, because in that high school age, there's so many other things happening that are influencing
social dynamics.
Influence decisions. There's still gonna be cliques and things where, this group of friends wants to be better. There's still going to be kind of that ringleader of the group who's maybe influencing this person to not like this person or whatnot. There's always going to be those people and things, but you're right, Gabriela. How can we continue to spread this message and really get it to sink into the younger generation, because it took a long time to learn this. I think for a lot of us. Now, for me, I've told my story plenty of, growing up like in a male dominated sport, but I was like the only girl doing that sport. And it was interesting that I don't feel like I was like, oh no, other girls can't do it. But I was like, when I wrestled a girl, I was like, I better not lose to a girl. Like, how embarrassing would that be? But now, it's a whole new world, and I've come into things like these mountain bike groups and different organizations that teach and do retreats and stuff, because I realized how much support women don't have out there. I was so lucky to grow up in a family, in a community that was behind me 100% in what I was doing. I was never doubted. There was never like, oh, you shouldn't do that, you're a girl. Like, I never ever had that feeling except for some random outsiders. But as I got older, I started to kind of feel it. And that's when I said, like, I realized, wow, there's so many people out there who don't have this support. And so I want to be the person who is giving that to you. You don't, like, your parents said, no, don't do that. Your husband doesn't support you. Your community doesn't support you. Well, I'm going to say, like, no, you need to do this. And our young girls need to have that messaging so much. And I don't know how really we can break that barrier. And other than showing by example, like moms out there with other moms doing the thing, like not talking shit about, Karen down the road and the way she dresses or she looks, or even about yourself. And I know how hard that is, especially in our generation of women in our, like what the messaging we got for body types and whatnot. It's still really ingrained in us that, of course, I still say this shit to my best friends, like, oh my God, if I could only lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, or like, oh, look at that girl, perfect body. And I have to actively work to not think that way. And if you have children, especially daughters, you have to really, I think, try not to talk about yourself that way, because we need to end that stigma. And I think that in itself will ingrain some confidence in them that we didn't really get ingrained from us by society, thus kind of evening the playing field and not making them feel like they're in direct competition with every other girl out there.
Absolutely.
I have said. No.
Mic drop.
I mean, yeah, I didn't expect to go on a tangent about that, considering I don't have children and I still coach a majority of boys in the sport of wrestling, but I want our team to grow. So I really am hoping we can get a handful of girls this year, because this sport that I've been so involved in my whole life, even though it's not an outdoor sport, I think can teach so much, and it really can instill that kind of confidence that you can take out into the world and do the things that I've done and feel comfortable and confident. And I think many sports can do this, but that's just my passion, team sport. But anyways, Gabriela, I want to get back to you and how you are doing, like, spreading this to other communities and getting more like Latin women specifically out there too. So you started mountain biking in 2022, right? And now it's 2024. You have a website. You've got like affiliates, events. I mean, it seems like you just jumped right into this, like head first, like started biking, finally found some love for it, and hit the ground running. I want to know about how you kind of went from that first group ride to now being a leader, and what that path kind of looked like. What hit you and when of like, you know what, like this is it. This is for me. This is my mission.
Ooh, it's funny. So I started with COMBA, Colorado Mountain Bike Association, and whenever I didn't show up to a ride, they would text me like, "Where are you?" Oh, I really needed to do something else today, guys. I went to every single ride. I think out of, let's say, 30 rides, I was in 25 rides. And I think what just seeing my kids. I think my children inspire me because I know that if I can bring these opportunities to them, and them being bilingual, they can open the world to many more kids. So yesterday we were in archery, and my kid, like I say, is bilingual, and he's very good at archery. And he was taken out of my team to another team of children. So I started talking with the mom. I'm like, do you notice this dynamic? So when you have someone that identifies with you, so femme, children, and Latinas, like you always like, oh yes, I can do this because you look like me.
Yes.
I know what you left in the house. Like there was times that I would open the door and like look around. My house is a mess. I'm like, I could like literally go and clean it or head. I'm like, I'm going. So I think that empowered me to be like, doesn't matter, don't worry, the mess is going to stay there and we'll be there.
Yes.
We'll come back.
100.
So, I don't want either of my kids to stop doing things that they have to be doing for doing something else that is not important at that time. I knock, I think 500 doors to start getting one door open. And when that one door open, many open, and that's where the
Yes.
affiliates come. And those 490 or 480 doors that close make me be stronger. So now I am like, if I see you and literally and clearly you saw me turning, if I want something, I just go for it. I'm like, hey,
Yes.
what is the worst thing you can tell me? No. And I am
Yeah.
okay with no. You know what? I got enough no's that another no, it doesn't add to that list. But if I get a yes, it goes and adds to that list. And just using my language, like literally being like, I know you, I see you, I hear you, or I know your story. Most of the stories repeat, regardless of the country that you come from, Mexico, Colombia. It was the same. It's the same story that we didn't bike. We didn't bike, and we come here and we start biking. So just like being open and being vulnerable to share my story in situations like this and be like, guys, I am not saying it's going to be easier, but like you say, I am here if you need to give me a phone call, or I can tell you where to try the first time. And if you fall and you need a band-aid, I will be here. So I just feel like that's my mission right now. I am like, everyone makes fun of me, saying, we follow you, when do you rest? I'm like, I don't know. I promise you, I homeschool my children.
Oh,
So I
wow.
really need to be like, okay guys, this is homeschooling time, and then I will do everything else. But yeah, I need to do this because it fills my heart of joy, knowing that if I inspire someone to step out of their comfort zone, even for a short hike, it doesn't matter. It might be the difference in that person's lives, and hopefully, if they have children or no, in their children's lives, because they will stop doing what they have been doing for years.
I just love your story so much in so many ways, and what you mentioned about just your kids and raising your kids and how it's so important to you, like what they see they could repeat, right? So teaching them that, hey, you don't need to prioritize doing the dishes over some self-care, right? And this is still something too that I think especially, again, women our age do, and women in general, because of just that caretaker, like innate feeling that we have of like, I have to do the dishes before I can go ride my bike and take care of myself. When it's like, no, like it's okay. They're gonna be there, or if they're not, they're gonna be there tonight after dinner, so like, I don't want to do it twice, let me just do it once at the end of the day or something, or ask for help from someone else. But when kids see that you are putting yourself last, they could either do that too, like your girls could repeat the same patterns,
Yes.
or they're gonna take advantage of you and expect, oh,
Yes.
mom's gonna do it. Mom's gonna do it. And
Yep.
there's so many different ways to parent, of course. But even if you don't have kids, I don't have kids, like, you can inspire other people too, your friends or, again, community, of how they can get out there and do this. Like, people look at you and may say, how do you have the time? Do you ever rest? And for one, not every single thing you do in the day is on the internet. But two, like, you just have your priorities down, and your priorities are different than someone else's priorities. So you just really have to take a long, hard look about, what are my priorities? Like today, sometimes I literally have to write this shit down. I keep thinking I have an appointment at 2:30 and I don't. That's tomorrow. So my day is a little bit more clear than I thought. I'm like, oh, actually, I have until 4:00. I'm like, so immediately after this, I need to shut the computer and get out the door. Like, go on a walk with the dogs. And
Yes.
I have to do that today, because if I don't do it right after this, I know I'm not going to. But yeah, sometimes that's hard. It's easy to get swept into other things. But you have such a mission now in sharing this with people who came from a background like you, have a story like yours, who never, literally didn't get the chance to experience this. They're not just choosing not to, they didn't get the chance to. They might not even know it exists. They still might feel unsafe in the outdoors, because that's just what they were kind of taught, to be fearful of the outdoors. And you told me a story about taking out a woman. I can't remember. Did you work with her for the hike, and your daughter for?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would love for you to like share that little story too, because like, it's not biking; it's just getting outside, and you all were surprised by what happened.
And I think I'm just going to back up to the other story.
Yeah.
I think also, like, because of the way that we put in ourselves, but knowing that I have a team, and we learned more than ever this year to work as a team with my family. So I know that my the dishes might not be there because my husband will take care of them. You know what I mean? Like, because I am the one who can go in and out more with my kids, because I homeschool. He works from home. And it was a transition. And like I said, he always has been super involved, but I feel like there was still that extra step that we needed to take. And he was willing to take. And my kids know, like, you have to do these things before we head the home, like we go anywhere, because they're also called responsibilities. So I feel like the bigger picture is like, there is responsibilities and we all have them, and we know we have to do them every day, but there is these things that it is okay we come back and do it later. And those are the things that we have to be, don't have the guilt, or like we call it the mother guilt. Oh, that one, it's okay, it can be put away. But so we became very outdoorsy. We take my kids everywhere and we go on adventures, and I am putting hikes. As a matter of fact, we have a third hike this coming Saturday. It's only with Latinx people. Well, only Latinx people have joined. It's open to everyone. And my Irene, who we organized the hikes with, she said at the beginning was 5 miles, and I had like a little bit like, ugh, because I know my daughter has, and my daughter is 4 years old. She has done 4 miles max, and those 4 miles were a little bit of a struggle. Like, I have to carry her some of it. So when she said 5 miles, I said, okay, we'll see. So I'm talking with this young girl who joined that hike. She's actually from my country, from Guatemala. And I am assuming she's around 25, 20-ish. And she's like, wow, I have never even hiked 1 mile. And it really like hit me because, again, we have beautiful places in Guatemala, but mostly the people you see enjoying those places are people from other countries. The people who live there, yes, they hike, but to do things that they have to do, like walk to school or go and pick up water, is they don't see it as a hike.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're from the city, the odds of you getting out and hiking are like super low. Like, you walk around your neighborhood. So I feel like that it hit me in the sense of like, oh my gosh, like you said, Taryn, it wasn't just only me. It is still very palpable. Like, she's maybe 20 years younger than me, and she is still in the same position where I was. And anyways, turned out to be that then my Irene, her name is Irene Vilar, made the confession, and she's like, it was actually 6.3 miles. But it gave me the biggest smile because both of my children, my 9-year-old son and my 4-year-old daughter, both of them walked the entire place, well, the entire hike. And this woman, she cried when we stop and have lunch. Her situation is a tricky situation. It's a tricky situation in the sense that she cannot go back to Guatemala. So knowing that you encounter that community that supports you and will be there to hike with you, to share a meal, and to empower you, I feel like she just started crying and said, thank you for this opportunity. And she's joining us this Saturday. So we, little by little, are planting these seeds of come and join us and be in the outdoors. The outdoors is so healing. And I feel like that's what, to me, besides everything else, empowers me to be like, we need to, you cannot take care of something you don't know. So if we can bring this image of the outdoors to people and how it is important to take care of the forest and the lake and the water by showing the beauty of it, hopefully we can create some consciousness, because like I said, it's going to be 4 tricky years and we really need to speak up more than we have ever done before.
100%. I mean, when we talked about trying to spread the message to young girls of just being more accepting of each other as women and realizing that there doesn't need to be the token female, right? There's more room for that now. We're not at that stage anymore of being the one girl who does this or the one girl who does that. There's many women in all these different sports and activities. We're seeing so much more now. But bigger than that, like I said, what you just brought up, bringing the outdoors to just the general public. We can live in our bubble. Sometimes, I've talked about this before too. I talked about this with you, Gabriela, how when we're involved in something, we're involved in mountain biking, in the outdoor industry, we forget how big or small our bubble actually is. And we're like, oh yeah, everybody knows. And you also hear that the outdoor industry is like $1 trillion industry. Shocking, because you're like, how if Joe Schmo over there has never stepped foot into the dirt, into the forest, like they've just have their park in the city, if that. I don't understand how it can be such a huge industry, but really it's a small percentage of our country who actually enjoys the outdoors in like national parks and forests and state parks and forests and things like that. But these things that you are doing, these little tiny steps that we can take by introducing them to people who never have been before, well, then it just spreads. Right now, this woman that you've taken out will feel empowered enough to go out with, like, lead someone else out there. And it's this trickle down effect. So how can we all do that and start to kind of spread this around? And now, because like you said, over the next 4 years, and what's scary, honestly, about our country and government setup is that it's 4 years for sure, but then after that, we're just in the question mark again. And then we're in the state of like, okay, well, now what for the next 4 years? We don't know what we're going to get. It's constantly changing and you constantly don't know what the fuck's going to happen. And it's really annoying and unsettling and you can never feel stable. And so it's tricky. And I feel like at some points you just have to, I don't mean to say put blinders on and ignore what's happening, but you have to just keep moving forward in the direction that you want to go. So regardless of who is sitting in whatever chair, you have to keep doing the things that are important to you, even more so when it's certain people. So I think it's just, we just have to keep going. And I know at times it gets really hard and you do want to give up. And especially in the last week when things initially happen, that you might lose all your hope. but I don't know, that trying to be naively positive of like, you don't know what's going to happen. It takes a long time for certain things to change. And now more than ever, like I said, you have to just keep really going for the things that are important to you and raising your voices and spreading your word and knowledge so that more voices are heard, more things happen, more people are out there who stand by you.
Yes. Building your community is more important now than ever, and
Yeah.
educating yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And staying on top of things. Like I said, like putting blinders on, not ignoring things that are happening. You definitely have to realize what's happening so you know where your voice needs to be like raised even more than places than others or whatnot. But like I said, just go forward, go on your mission, stay doing what you're doing. It's still important, even though if you feel like, oh, well, this doesn't matter anymore. Like, no, it matters more than freaking ever. But we might be getting just knocked down over and over and over the next few years. But as you said too, you knock on 500 doors, maybe only one or two opens, and it reminds me of like, an analogy of no's and yeses to like dollar amount. Like no's are like pennies. They mean nothing. Whatever. No. But that yes could be that big check. Like that is all you need. It is that one yes. So the no's don't matter. I think you just have to let them roll off your back. You have to keep going because you will find that yes that opens more doors to the bigger yeses. And yeah, maybe to more no's, but again, every no just pivots you another route. Hopefully, don't let the no's shut you down, because look what you're doing, all the no's, and you're still going. You've gotten some yeses, and that keeps you going and seeing the difference you're making, like taking your daughter out on this hike and this other woman out on this hike and seeing how it affects them. I mean, that's the yes that makes you keep going. Like that's the energy filling your cup of like, okay, this does matter. Like even if it's that one person, it made a huge difference in their life. And when you have people like you who do these things, it's just so meaningful and important. And yeah, you're not just biking, you're hiking and getting women out there and people of color. I'm curious how you reach these communities, because when they haven't been introduced to the outdoors people, it's like, well, if you're posting on, Kamba's website or something, like they don't even know what that is. So how do you find them? Are you out there, like literally knocking on doors?
I just started laughing because I think I was like, let's just post it on social media. Of course they will see it. I'm like, it's okay. And then I was like, no, it is not happening. So I just laughed because I went I went to this, it's a very Latinx area. It's actually the biggest Latinx area in Denver. I went to drop off a flyer because I'm okay, let's do flyers. And the woman, she's beautiful. She's from Venezuela. She's like, you came for class? And I was like, I came to put the She's like, well, like, you're here, get into class.
Oh, dang.
I texted my husband, I'm sorry, like, I'm staying for a class. And I'm like, I was laughing inside myself. I'm like, here am I doing this. It was an amazing class, and but it was only Latinas. So like that, I'm like, I am going to put myself into that situation because that's it. No, not in a bad way. It's just I am willing to do that extra step because you are the people I need. And if I get to talk to you, like you said, you talk to two more, and then we spread.
Yes.
So yes, I literally go to every single event that is. I told my husband yesterday, I'm like, just for information, I have events every single night of this week. I'm going to be gone, and it's different groups of people. Like what I have learned, and I think I mentioned it to you, Taryn. I was putting an event last year, Amber, and I put the title in Spanish. And then I start connecting with more people. And I was like, no, I cannot repeat this story. Everyone has repeat. I'm like, we are switching it to English. And Of course, everything was in English and Spanish, but meaning we need to be willing to open these doors for everyone, and putting yourself there. Unknown things, unknown situations are scary. Unknown situations that you are hearing the story of someone else that is not trustworthy are scary. Unknown situations of learning the truth about what's going on hopefully will inspire you. And I think my point, and I have been having this thought, and I want to share it, and I don't want this interview to finish without me telling you this. People like you who give us the space to share stories in many other places, who has given me the opportunity to write a blog, to speak up, use the microphone. Thank you, because we need that. What I really want to make the point is that there is so many people out there who are really trying, but they're screwing it up. So you cannot. I share with you, Taryn, an experience, and I don't want to repeat the story because I don't think it's trying to look for the analogy. You cannot tell everyone. You cannot tell anyone and everyone that you understand what eating a tortilla is if you have never tried a tortilla, or you are not well into. I'm like, I don't know what other analogy give you. I understand we cannot try everything, and the willingness of giving the chance to someone to share their story is big enough, but you really have to take the time to research. I'm like, I am going in circles. I just trying to tell you, if you're willing to do something for someone, take the time to learn about that person or that situation before you put that person in an uncomfortable situation because you didn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
I'm just going to take. I'm like,
No,
No,
I
you're
fully
fine.
hear what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. Like, me and Taryn, we all come from different backgrounds, especially when there's a cultural difference. Like, you were raised in Guatemala, Catholicism is very deeply ingrained in you. We grew up in America. I didn't have a whole lot of religious background. Like, you just have to bridge those gaps, and you have to educate yourself, and you have to open your mind and your heart. It's very important, especially now that we do this. And more important now than ever, hold spaces for minorities, immigrants, women, especially in all of those communities.
Yeah, well, this is why, I mean, I think we've all been feeling a bit of fire under our butts in the last week, with some realizations hitting of just how we can all be taken back in time a bit. And so we connect on the level of being women, and then it again is that it trickles down. So like, we are like middle class white women. We we have this feeling as these women of privilege. So we have to understand how women of lesser privilege feel. And there's even more of a fight against them. And a lot of what's happened is people were only thinking about one thing or themselves. And there's plenty of times in life that I have to realize, like, hey, this doesn't just affect me. And we do that a lot in our home lives, right? Like, oh, it's not about me, it's about my kids or my partner or whatever. Well, why don't we think about that in the grander picture? But also, why is it like we as women do that? We put ourselves in other people's shoes. We try to learn a bit about others, and like Amber said, like, bridge the gaps. And that's why I'm like, dude, what is wrong with things? Like, this is why women need to be in leadership, because we do connect on a different human level. We can make a bigger difference than men can. And yes, like I said, support men, whatever. There's good men leaders out there and stuff. But I still think that women can do a better job, and they've just never been given the chance because we're told, we don't speak up and don't take chances or risks and whatnot. But no, we communicate on a different level because we try to actually empathize with people. So on the basic level of getting women in the outdoors trying a new activity, first we're understanding their background of like, okay, you've never hiked before. So we're going to start small. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be there right every step of the way, rather than like, oh, just go out on this 5-mile hike. It's easy. Like, again, we take smaller, slower steps, but they're more meaningful. And I think that, yeah, it's just women need to realize their own powers and start doing the things, not being afraid of asking for that promotion, for leading a group ride, for starting a group. Yeah, there's many groups out there, but still, what is it? How do you connect to other people? You know, it's like slow hikers club, like we're never trying to get anywhere fast kind of thing. Like you can find your people, and we as women, I think, are much better at finding our people and connecting with them. So we need to empower other women to do that and to like step into that power. That's why I think what you're doing is amazing. I mean, you show up to put up a flyer and you realize, you know, this woman's trying to pull you in, and you're like, well, what I'm trying to do is pull people into something new. So I kind of can't say no right now. I'm in this situation that, whoops, well, if I'm trying to get people to do this, I have to do it too. So I'm going to do this class that I didn't plan on doing. You have to lead by example. And if people are going to come try out whatever your flyer was about, well, once they see it in the class next to them, they're going to be more likely to do it because they're like, wow, this woman is who she says she is. She's what she's all about, practicing what she preaches.
Shows up.
Yeah. So I love that about you. And again, the amazing part of this to me is that this is what, 2.5 years in, maybe 3 years into just starting your own journey outdoors. That is incredible. And
true passion.
Yeah, exactly. That
true
shows
fire.
How much it actually connected with you and how important it is to you, and again inspires people that it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're a mother, whether you're divorced, married, anything that you've gone through in life, you can pick up and start new. Not even pick up, you can just turn left, like, okay, had enough here. Like, I'm changing the route. It's okay to do that. We can do that, and you can find your people, and you can start something. If you can't find your people, you will find them. It just might take some work. And
you froze,
I also
Taryn.
wanted to, I don't know how much this will like kind of
I have a question
backtrack
for you, Gabriela.
things or throw anything off. But
to people educating
okay,
themselves and holding space for Latinx communities, queer communities, you name it, you know, all the minority, different, whatever. How else can people help out, hold space? What else, in your opinion, do you think people could do?
I feel like peace starts with a smile.
Yes, I love that.
There was a meditation that when after at the end of your day, you thought about a face that you encounter. And this is becoming harder and harder because everyone is like walking like this, you know. So
yes.
I have to have like a big explanation to my children. I'm like, guys, because I was a homestay mom. I'm like, now I have a job and I will be on the cell phone because we are media free. And it was a big change for them. But I'm like, guys, I'm working. I'm not like just like, so, but my point of that is like, I understand it's needed. I'm not saying we cannot just like, oh, it's going to be put away. But be conscious about it and be conscious that there is a surrounding and there is people and that smile might change someone's life. So I feel like that's the only thing I can think of, because
I love that.
Yeah.
It's simple, you know, you just don't know what someone's going through, and a simple smile, even if it's forced, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the only other advice I have, Irene, the person I work with, she is a very well educated regarding about many things, but one of them, and I have learned this with her. I don't know the word, but in the U.S., people tend to read more books just about authors from the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And she was saying, like Europe, no, like Europe, they have books from everywhere. Um, give it a chance, like bring it up into this conversation, because you don't know what that story might bring you. And like, I think this is the last one I have to share with you. Is called it's by Isabel Allende. El viento conoce mi nombre. You might get a better picture why people is migrating. I migrate from different reasons. I met my husband, and that was a completely something I wasn't planning. I came for a trip, and then like 2 years later, I'm here in the US. Everyone is here for a different reason. No, everyone came for the same reason. So we will learn to be more open for acceptance when we are more open to learn about other stories. And your story is unique. Nobody can repeat your story. Nobody can tell your story, but besides you. So be willing to listen to that other story.
Yes. Well put. And
Yeah.
we will definitely link all of the books that you've shared with us in our show notes too. So for people who want to educate themselves, they can. I know I'm definitely going to read some of the books that you shared for sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great point. And just like not looking at it at the bigger picture of like, oh, I'm not gonna relate to that person. One, you don't have to. That's why we like read books or share stories, is just to hear them. We don't have to relate to them. It doesn't have to be something that we've gone through too. It just gives you a different perspective. We need to be open to different perspectives so we can learn more about others. But also, most likely there is something you can relate to that can bring that connection to. It might be the littlest story in that person's life that you're like, oh, I went through that too. Or like you can find a nugget of relatedness, I think, in everything. You just have to try. And often, again, we just look at the bigger picture of like, oh, there's, I could look like, there's no way I can relate to someone who's immigrated to this country. But so it could be this simplest little thing that I can connect to. Maybe that's about their story that they had in their home country or something. But yeah, we just need to be open to those different perspectives. We need to learn more about each other instead of just being stuck
Educate,
in
educate,
yeah,
educate.
don't be stuck in what you know. And for all sides and stories, like it gives you a better understanding of a person, of knowing their background and why they feel the way they do. And I think if you know why, you have a better chance of changing their mind or view. If you don't know why and you're just trying to yell at them and preach like, no, you should believe this or that, like it's probably not gonna work.
Yep.
But if you
And the more stories that we share, the more broader understanding we all will have. And like you said, there's a lot of books here that aren't from different perspectives, and that's fucked. That's so messed up.
well, especially now with like the book banning and stuff, like I
Yes.
don't, there's weird things happening with all of that too. So it's an interesting, crazy world that we live in the US, especially right now.
Mhm.
Before we get out of here, though, Gabriela, I do want to make sure you have the chance as well to share with people where they can find you, like best ways to connect with you, and if you have any events or something that you're leading that people can still join. Just anything you want to share right now with the audience, please do that. And again, as you all know, this will all be in the show notes too, so you can actually click and find these things.
So I think the better way is to follow me. Like last night, I didn't know I have an event tonight. So that will be the place that I will be like, hey, there is an event tonight. I have a hike happening this Saturday. It will be 5 miles in Golden Gate Canyon. If you're in the Denver, Boulder area, Yeah, I have so many things happening, so many things going on. Hopefully I will be taking care of the Latina clinics with Comba next year, or collaborating with them. uh so many things. Like, I feel like that's the best way. I want to tell you everything, and I'm like running through all the things. We are putting together a meeting once a month, where Irene Vilar is going to be guiding us to start writing a book. She asked me to write a memoir. So I am going to venture into this new thing. And
Wow.
we are going to have once a month a tertulia, which is we all gather and we just hang out. We need more than ever that. And if you can create these groups in your around your community, there is so many people trying. There is a guy in California. He's from Puerto Rico. He has a Friday Flamingo.
Cute.
Just carry a flamingo to the house that is hosting that that event. Just open your door and know that my door is open, always open, and everyone always says, like, Gabriela, you always has people in your house. We just hosted a friend that I met on Instagram, and he stayed with us. And another friend came and he's like, "What if he's a serial killer?" I'm like, "Well, he's not." we are,
Yeah.
and he texted me because he needed to come back, and he came back. And somebody else is coming this weekend. Like, in this house, there is always a space for anyone, and we love to host people. We love to sit on a dinner, and my husband makes homemade pizza, and we share stories, and that's how we roll.
I love
I
it.
love it.
Well, we will definitely link your Instagram and website and stuff on the show notes. Your Instagram's just your full name, Gabriela. Is it Hydle? Is that how
Yes.
you pronounce it? Okay, Gabriela Hydle. But yeah, like I said, you'll find it there because I'm not going to spell it out right now. But Gabriela, thank you so much, and I feel this way with a lot of guests, but with most guests, really, we could go on and on. You have so much to share, and that you could say to folks. And I, just look forward to following your journey and having you again sometime, and hopefully in person sometime at one of these like bike events, and being able to connect that way. And thank you so much for sharing your story, for everything you're doing for women and marginalized groups. I just can so excited we were finally able to connect and get your voice out there.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for sticking with us. Go find Gabriela on Instagram, give her a follow, check out what she's doing, check out the books that she spoke about here, to give yourself a different viewer perspective on these topics. And again, thank you guys. We'll talk to you all next week. We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. Like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.